For my brothers never had an ear to hear them. These the bricks for our sisters help us build it. If I could be a black fly on the wall, I can hear and see it all and have the mind of a god. Black, 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 black. Fly, 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 fly. Black, 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 black.
Welcome to another episode of Black Fly on the Wall. I got some beautiful young ladies here with me today. We're talking about what about your friends? All right. The dynamics, the layers of friendship, broken friendships, mended friendships, new friendships, transitions, all that good stuff related to friends and how we individually define friendship. But make sure you like, share, and subscribe. We appreciate the support so you can stay up to date with everything Black Fly on the Wall has going on. But I'm going to introduce some of these people. Miss Jessica, introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Jessica L'Oreal. I'm a lifestyle influencer and a licensed mental health therapist.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Ms. Devontè, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Devontè Reese. I am a civil servant for the city of Durham, and I also own my own hair care brand.
What's the name of it?
Goldilocks and C.
There we go. There we go.
Yes, thank you.
Nice. Miss Shonda, introduce yourself.
Yeah, I am Shonda Drone. I am a realtor here in the Triangle. I go by the Triangle's housewife. I'm a mom of two and the wife to a wonderful husband.
There you go. She's just saying that because he's in the room. but absolutely, man. So thank you all. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Thank you for having us.
And having this important conversation. Devontè, I'm going to start with you. How would you define friendship?
I would say just more so it just being a mutual respect of whatever we got going on, whether past, present, and future. Just something that we both can look at each other and say, we respect what each other is doing, and there's a common understanding, for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I think the mutual respect is key.
Yeah.
Because I think that's how all friendships actually start off. Because like sometimes, a friendship can start off kind of rough or from a unique place. Whether you get in an argument with somebody, they cut you off in traffic, you go back and forth, and then you realize you got more in common with this person than anything, and then you all start to build and you become friends. Jessica, what would you say what are some criteria that you look for in a friend? What are some attributes, characteristics, or criteria that you would look for in a friend?
It's common ground for us to be able to talk to. I can feel safe, trustworthy, somebody that I'm willing to, tell my deepest, darkest secrets, and I'm not afraid that they're going to get out to others. I think that's really, really important.
To that level of, you're looking for that level of vulnerability.
Yes. I need to go, I'm the type of person that likes to go deep. So it can't just be surface level. So like a friend to me is somebody that I can go deep with. I
like that. Ms. Shonda, are there layers to the friends that you have? Levels?
Sure. I think that there are. Well, I feel like once I call you my friend, if we're friends, then there's not really a layer there.
Okay.
But, there are associates, there are people that you talk to, there might be somebody that you work with and that you feel very cool with and, are cool with hanging out, but not necessarily your friend. So I think that there are levels to who you hang out with and who you spend time with. But once you're like my friend, then you've made it.
Yeah, I look at friend, it's almost like a word of endearment in my book. That's something that's somebody that you can vouch for, right? Yeah. You can vouch for their character. You can vouch for. You can trust them. You can almost put your life on the line with this person. Like you trust that they always have your best interest at heart. And a lot of times we throw the friend word around loosely to where whenever you really get down to the nitty gritty of the definition and who this person is in your life, they're not really a friend. You just don't want to call them an acquaintance.
Right. Yeah.
And we have to get comfortable in a space to where we're comfortable having people as acquaintances and we're comfortable with running our lives with having true friendships as well. And I think a lot of times friendships are not always nurtured to the level that they need to. Yeah. So, Jessica, what are some ways that you would say, or what are some of your history with your friends to where you truly understood and you got to a point to where you say, this is my friend? Because that doesn't start day one. That's a developed relationship over time.
No, absolutely. I feel like it's a person that I can do life with. Like, that's the important thing. Like, being able to do life with somebody. It's some people like, hey, we may kick it, we may hang out. Like, oh, that's my going out, like, kick it. But somebody that's entangled with my life that I can be like, hey, I'm doing something. Can you go pick up my kid from school for me?
Right.
Like, that's a friend. Like, you're on
That's
my
facts.
emergency list to go get my kid. Like,
That's a friend.
clearly, like, that's a friend.
That's a friend.
You know
That's a
what I'm
friend.
saying? Like, that's serious.
Yes.
Somebody I do life with.
What about you, Devontè?
I would say, of course, somebody who's trustworthy is very important, especially being in a space of my life where not necessarily working secretively, but discretion is key. Like having someone, again, I can tell you things, I can ask you to do things, and I know that I don't have to prep you and you're going to do it at the same level that I would do it if I was doing it myself. So, for sure.
Ms. Shonda, what about you?
Yeah, I think that, for me, everything is on social media. You kind of have this, not persona, because I think that I'm pretty relatable and I try to be true to who I am all the time. I am. I try to be authentic. But everybody can't know everything, right? And so your friends are people that you get to be a little more vulnerable with. You get to talk a little more crazy and just kind of really let your hair down around. And that is important to me.
Yeah, I think just thinking about even when I was preparing for this conversation, just looking at, my history of friendships, I think as we age and as we grow, how we define friendship changes. And then how we classify older friendships change as well. So let's say, for instance, you progress and then you and a person that was your friend, you fall off in life, whether you move to a new state or whether you start a new career, you get married, you have children, and you start to kind of think back and reminisce, and you look at the progress of that relationship. Sometimes you say, was this person truly my friend? And it doesn't always take like a dramatic situation to happen. It's just like a natural evolution of the friendship. So like outgrowing friends, Devontè, would you say that like as you, because how old are you?
31.
So we've transitioned. I think all of us have transitioned to that 30 and up, to where 30 is like that pinnacle year where you start shifting your perspective on life and the people you're around. You're a lot more cognizant of that. How would you say when you hit 30 that your definition of friendship changed, or your actual friendships changed in your life?
Honestly, my friendships have kind of changed my whole life just because of the different, I want to say the different lives that I live, because I've always been myself, but my life has put me in different positions where, again, you have friends out of common interests, and sometimes you have friends out of environment, the people you're working with, the people you're around, but it's changed in a way where they're starting to kind of tailor off a little bit, and we kind of spoke briefly on this, how our friendships from our past, old friendships, they're starting to dwindle, but making friends as an adult, especially, trying to cultivate that relationship and start it and nurture it, especially as an adult, and you have so many responsibilities, it's kind of hard to make up for the void of those friendships ending and kind of filling them in with something that you feel comfortable with these people being in your life or being, aware of what you're doing.
For sure. And just, I think, like, especially as you as a creative and an influencer, is it hard to sometimes separate friendship from business?
No, I think I know who like my real friends are. I think like when you think about like just life in general, when you're doing life, you realize like, oh, this particular person, like, oh, we're going to church together. You're praying with me. Like, oh no, that's a real friend. Versus sometimes you have people, like I said, where it's like, oh, we may kick it here, we may do this, but it's nothing more than that. There's no substance in it. So it's like,
no meat on the bone.
Yeah, so it's like, is that person really my friend? I wouldn't call that person a friend.
And even like when I was younger, like my mom instilled in me at a very young age, not everybody is your friend. Like my mom was one of those ones, you can't call everybody your friend because not everybody is your friend. So really like having that as like a home base and kind of applying it has definitely been key with, being able to weed people out for sure.
Right. And I think, there are seasons, right?
Yep.
And I feel like there are friendships that I had before that I really think that they were my friend at that particular moment. And whether we grew apart or we moved or we did whatever it was, or we fell out, right? That doesn't mean that they weren't my friend.
In that season.
Correct.
Right.
We're just not friends anymore.
And sometimes I think too, it's a challenge to assess. It's a challenge to come to that point of awareness. I would probably say, like that's true awareness, to choose to look at it from the lens of, well, you can either choose to go option A, but they were never my friend, because if they were, we'd be friends now.
Right.
Or B, I was in a season, they were in the same season. Mentally, we aligned. You know, it may have been a time where both of you all, neither one of you all had children or family or a husband.
Right.
And you all were living your best life. But as you went into a new season, that puzzle piece just didn't fit with who you were. And you had to make a choice, or it just naturally, organically progresses into that.
Yeah.
And I think also, too, like, me and my wife talk about it a lot, is like, I'm a true believer now. Everybody don't agree with this. I think you got to go through some stuff with somebody to show true friendship.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's easy to be like, oh yeah, we're friends. We're on living on the high. We want to see Beyonce together. You know what I'm saying? Renaissance, silver outfits is popping. High knee boots. We got the cowgirl hat on. We friends. But I feel like until there are some trials, tribulations to where you all get rocky, you know, you don't know which way it's gonna go, but the true relationship shows itself at that junction, you know? So that's my belief. What about you?
I definitely agree. It's just like you can't expect somebody to show up to the game and know all the plays. You gotta have some practice. You gotta have some practice in that thing. And sometimes it requires you going through some areas that are rocky, some things that are questionable, but also having someone who can have that kind of conversation. Because you got some friends, you know, you can't even come to them with the conversation because it's gonna go over their head.
Yeah.
So it's like you're almost walking on eggshells to keep from, you know, hurting their feelings or, you know, causing even more disruption in the friendship, but you already kind of know, like, this will probably be my last time hanging out with them. You
That's
know?
a fact.
Yeah.
Like, Shonda, how do you gauge how truthful to be? Do you feel like you have a balanced, straight up level of truth, or do you taper that off?
I think that
You're raw and
I'm pretty much an
even
open
keel.
book. Yeah. And
Okay.
I like balance.
Okay.
I like calm. I feel like this is kind of, you get what you see. For me anyways. And, you know, I feel like most of my friends, that's important to them too. And they know who Shonda is. They know what you're going to get.
You call me, you already know what's up. My mama say, who with me?
That's right.
Straight up. Like, you know, it's not going to be no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's complete honesty. Do you feel like, I think one thing I learned from my mom is, and I don't know, sometimes I apply this in my friendships, is that she always be like, you and your siblings, none of y'all are the same. So I can't raise you all the same. I can't talk to y'all the same.
Right.
I can't come to you all with the same energy because you all are like three different people.
Yeah.
And if I try to apply 0.8, like the way my mom talks to me, she knows that she can be straight up, blunt, rough, around the edges. I'm going to take it. And that's how I'm receptive to communication sometimes, or feedback. But with my sister or my brother, she knows she can't take that same direction. And sometimes I wonder, and as I've aged, I've started to apply that with my friends. It's like, with my best friend, I know I can come to him and just be like, bro, look, this is what it is. Whether you like it or not, I don't care, but you need to hear this. Whereas I know with some of my friends already know he may not be receptive to the type of feedback. So when it comes to communication with your friends, and this is where I think the conversation really takes a deep dive, is that how do you communicate with your friends completely the same? No. Or would you, so real life scenario, you ain't friend A, and you can have this friend in your mind.
Okay, so friend A, this is the person that, you know, we've been together in terms of friendships for a long time. This person has seen me through marriage, divorce, single,
the good, the ugly,
like the
upside
ugly,
down,
the bad, all of it. So I know I can be real raw with her. She's not gonna judge me. Like I can tell her I'm doing whatever, and she's the ride or die. Like she ready. She like, let's go. What I need to pull up. Like, look what we doing. You know what I'm saying? That's that friend, right?
Okay.
But then she also understands too that I may not call her all the time. We may not be able to do everything all the time because right now she's in a different phase in her life than I am.
Okay.
So we're cool.
Right.
But then there are some friends where you have needy friends, right? So I have a needy friend who she wants me to kind of call her all the time, do all this stuff.
And she like, we really ain't friends if you ain't calling me. Do you still love me?
And it's like, girl, I love you, but I'm not your man. So I can't. I don't have the mental capacity to do that. Right. So it's like some stuff I also have to be gentle with her because she's sensitive. So it's like I have to let her know, like, hey, you know, I got a lot of stuff, or I have my daughter this weekend, so I can't really be there for you like you need me to be. And I need you to understand that.
712 Vodka, distilled only once from Blue Ridge Mountain Water. Alkaline and gluten-free, 712 Vodka is perfect for sipping or mixing. When you want to enjoy the finer things in life, serve up 712 Vodka and reflect with us on the happenings that have made you who you are.
Okay, good.
I think it's just important to have from the beginning, not,
I about to say,
and maybe not
yeah.
from the beginning because you don't
'Cause
realize
they've been
that there's
around
an
forever.
issue, right? But to set those boundaries, right? Like, hey, I know that you're gonna want me to call you on Friday night because you're gonna want to go out, and I'm telling you on Thursday that
Aye.
Friday is not gonna work for me.
Right.
I've got all of these things, you know, kind of going on. But just like setting some boundaries within your friendships, and like I said, if you need me, please call me. I am going to be there. But if you don't hear from me, it's not because I'm upset with you.
We
It's
ain't
not because
beefing.
I'm mad.
Right.
We don't
It ain't
have any
wartime.
issue.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that we had to have those conversations.
Yeah, those are tough conversations you gotta have. So, Shonda, with you, how long you been married?
9 years.
So, before you got married,
Yes.
how did you managing your relationships with your friends change?
You know, to be honest, my friends are still very much a part of my group, and they come to our house, and
Okay.
they, you know, Sean knows all of my friends and talks to all of my friends, can call them, and, you know,
Yeah.
they can call Sean if they need anything. So it's wonderful that I have a husband who, I mean, you know, he accepts my friendships.
Right.
He welcomes
It makes
them
life
in.
easier. It makes
right.
life easier. Yeah.
However, you know, sometimes he'll be like, all right, y'all can leave.
Right,
you know,
right,
y'all can go. It's time for us to have some time. But I think that what was really a difference was when we had children, because then, you know, Sean and I have a wonderful relationship. We spend a lot of time together in general. And if his friends or my friends come in, then it's still kind of just a welcome. We're all together, right? But once you have children and you just have a different schedule, and you've got somebody else to really think about and
Absolutely.
know and love, and like your friends come over and they want to hold the babies and talk to the babies and maybe watch the babies, but still you have this new responsibility
Sure.
that is, and it just kind of takes away from your extra time.
For sure. Sure. And I think like those new seasons that you transition into life also shows you I don't want to use the word true friendship, but I want to it shows you the strength of the friendship. Because not all friendships are created
I
equal.
about to say, not even so much the strength of the friendship. Sometimes it's the strength of the person.
That's true.
Facts.
That's good.
Do you feel like, Devontè, with you saying that, do you feel like you find out new things about, you can be friends with somebody for 10 years, but as you transition into a new season, that is kind of like a pivot where you find out new things about that friend, right?
Oh, for sure.
Like their strength to manage changes in your life and to unconditional love and all of that good stuff.
I think it's just being understanding of where we are and where they are. Like you said, having some kind of open communication and being able to have these vulnerable conversations that are oftentimes uncomfortable. There are oftentimes you might be upset, you might be happy, you know, being able to manage all of your emotions and still get your point across where both parties can say either we're agreeing to move forward or say, hey, we had a good run. And being able to like move on amicably. And it's like, it's no beef. We ain't mad at each other.
Right.
Next time I see you, we ain't got to fight about it,
Right.
you know, but, you know, we had a good run.
For sure. And I think too, boundaries is a big, very, very big principle in friendship. And firm friendships really have that understanding, like mutually. Like, I'm gonna respect your boundaries with this, you respect my boundaries with this, and we draw those lines. With you've been in a relationship, do you feel like you've had to draw lines in the things that you do with your friends now that you've transitioned to a relationship versus what you being hot girl summer, and you super single, you're in the streets, you know what I'm saying? And now that you're committed to something, do you feel like you had to monitor and change how you operate with friends?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think, you can't do the same thing that you're doing when you're single with your friends versus when you're in a relationship or a marriage. I mean, it's just being respectful of the relationship that you're in. And I feel like if you have like really good friends that understand, like they're going to be understanding, like, okay, girl, like, or even tell you like, girl, you going out with us again? Like,
Right.
you need to
You need to stay home.
Girl, you need to stay at
plate.
home. Like, I know you ain't doing nothing, but like, girl, you better chill if you want to keep your man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it has to be a balance. So yeah, absolutely. Like, and I think my friends, my true friends, they understand that.
Facts. What is this thing in relationships, or you get into a good relationship or a marriage to where you have a best friend before the relationship and then your partner is your best friend?
That's right.
How
One ain't got nothing to do with the other.
No, the one does not have. Okay, explain that.
That's it. My husband is my best friend.
Okay.
And my best friend
So
is
you
my
got two
best
best
friend.
friends.
That's right.
You can have more than one best friend.
That's
You
true.
can.
I was gonna say that. I
Yeah.
feel like there are different. You can have different best friends.
Yeah.
Like,
What qualifies a spouse as being your best friend? Is it that the husband or the wife title isn't enough to carry the weight?
Well, some people don't like their spouse. Some people don't
Talk about it.
Right. Some people don't really like who they're married to.
Okay.
And they don't
So
feel
can
like
have-
friends.
They can have that husband or wife title, but you still don't have that open relationship,
Right.
open conversation, vulnerability, open to talk about anything.
Right.
Even, I think, like, even with my wife and I, like, the reason why I got married is because, like, I felt like I had a friend, and it was more outside of just the emotional stuff, the fun stuff, the sex, all of these things that are encompassing of relationships. But you actually can sit down and talk about business.
Right.
Or you can talk about sports. You can
Right.
talk about whatever.
Nothing.
And so you feel like anything. So you feel like, yeah, or nothing, just sit there.
Yeah.
And so you feel like at times that person can grow into being that best friend.
And sometimes that role may change. Sometimes
Are
you
you
have
my best friend no more because we
Not-
didn't go on this trip.
not so much of that, but like, again, depending on what you got going on, depending on where you are in your life, you may be transitioning jobs, transitioning in business, and it causes you to be in different environments. So, it's always subject to change. And I think the more we are a little bit more fluid with that and accepting it, the better off we'll be for sure.
Have you ever made mistakes in your friendships?
absolutely.
So do you feel like that was something that you realized right then and there, or was it a process of gaining that accountability?
I think it was definitely a process of gaining that accountability. I mean, I can use the example. So I say, like, my friends back home, like, yeah, those have been my friends since I was 12 years old. In Cleveland. But it's like when I moved here, I kind of gained some more friends, and it was kind of like there's this whole situation, and it's almost like,
Oh, you brand new.
And then it's like, but I'm not though. But it's
Right.
like, it's almost like, have you all seen the difference, like when you have your friends and then your college friends, and
Oh,
then
yeah,
how
yeah,
that
yeah.
dynamic
Trying to
can
mix
be,
Yeah.
it can be really, really hard
Right,
and
yeah.
difficult. And sometimes you got to have those tough conversations with your friends of understanding. Like sometimes, like my friends back home, like I've outgrown a little bit. So it's like, we're not as close, or you're not my best friend, or you're my childhood best friend, like
Or we don't have that many things in common anymore.
For sure.
that.
Yeah.
For sure. Like my mom always told me, you're gonna meet your best friends in college. You're gonna meet your real friends in college. You're gonna meet your real friends. And that holds true to this day. Like my life, 99% of my lifelong best friends have been from college. And I think friendship is often associated with what we talked about earlier, seasons.
Right.
So whenever you're transitioning into a new area of your life, you're hitting this milestone, right, of going to college. It's a scary time. It's a time of, things that you don't know what's going to happen or what direction you're going in, and you're actually growing as an individual.
Right.
That's sometimes whenever you will align with the correct people, and they grow into being your friendship. And so I think it's all about alignment, synergy, what frequency you on, what vibe you on,
Right.
Because you have to always be able to manage that. A real life example. So, one of my best friends, close friends, since childhood, Earl Wolf, played football at NC State. There was a long period of time where we didn't converse, but we've known each other since second grade, right? So from second grade through middle school, through high school, we stayed tight. But we both went to college. I went to Winston. He went to NC State. It was just a natural progression of it wasn't any ill will. It was just like a mutual, natural evolution of friendship, right? But now that we've progressed and we're now men, and we're, you know, he has a daughter now, and I'm married now. We're both now kind of like realigning in that synergy, and the friendship is still present. Yeah. So I think many times, like, a break doesn't necessarily mean that you're cutting ties with somebody, but there takes a level of emotional maturity and emotional intelligence to understand that.
Absolutely.
So I think all in all, it's all about trusting the pathways of relationships. Devontè, what is an instance that you've made a mistake in a friendship, but you didn't realize it then, but maybe you'll realize it later?
Well, it happens often. Again, I am a low maintenance friend. I'm not someone who calls a lot. It's not that I don't care. It's
You're too quiet.
Yeah. And the caveat of that is, yes, if you need me, call me. But at the same time, I understand that when I'm ready to go, when I'm ready to hit you up, you may not be available or receiving of that energy because I have not been as present. So I think that's something that I've kind of just been working on, because it is a double side, you know, when it comes to it. Because it's like, yeah, you want your boundaries. Yeah, I have my space. I can kind of pick up and go at my leisure. But at the same time, most of my friends are married, they have kids, or they don't move around as much as I do. So, like, it's kind of hard when I'm ready to go, or I want to go to these places and I have this access to these resources and I want to bring my friends along, and they aren't always available to be there.
Shonda, you know, you're 25 years old, so in your 25 years of life, in your 25 years of life, what would you say a characteristic about yourself that has either challenged friendships or almost lost friendships that you've corrected and improved in?
I don't know that I've corrected or improved it.
You haven't corrected it yet.
I will say that I'm very welcoming. I'm very like, I love you until I don't, right?
Okay.
But I'm also very good at once you've overstepped my boundaries, or once something has happened, I'm very good at saying, okay, hey, it's just not it. Okay. And there doesn't have to be a blow up. You just haven't heard from me. Okay. And I feel like I've made it clear that we're not friends anymore.
Right.
And
read the room.
Right. But a lot of people aren't. They're not open to that. Right. So they feel like there was some mistake and maybe they did make a mistake, but they feel like there was something bigger than, I just don't really rock with you. And the bad thing is I don't communicate that. I kind of just step back and I'm like, hey, there's no reasoning. You don't understand the reasoning.
I know, but you don't know.
Right.
So do you feel like the solution to that, and I'll let you chime in, Jessica, do you feel like the solution to that is initiating that conversation like, hey, I don't like the space that we're in. There's a lot of negativity. I prefer for us to take a step back and remain associates, but we don't have to continue this friendship.
Right. And that's a hard conversation for me to have, because I'm not very confrontational.
Okay.
And so, especially if we maybe haven't been friends that long, or, you know, we were really rocking and we were really hanging out and we were doing all of the things, and I've invited you into kind of my friend circle, and then something happened, or I didn't like the way you were moving, or I didn't like something that you, whatever it is. And then I kind of take that step back. I definitely think that the fix to that would be saying, hey, just so you know, this is the reason why I'm taking a step back. But then a lot of times I don't like to have the conversation of, well, I can fix it, or I apologize.
You don't want them to continue to try, because in your mind,
at that
you're
point
done.
It's over. That's correct.
You cut people off.
I'm very good at that.
What about you, Jess?
I'm the type of person I want to have the conversation. I think that's the therapist in me.
Okay.
Because I want to
Me too.
know.
Me too. I'm like that too.
I want to know.
We
Like, okay, so tell
this.
me, like, what happened? Or do you feel like, because maybe we misinterpreted something, like something was misinterpreted. So it's like, let's have a conversation. I think me also learning more about effective communication, like trying to understand, like, what does that look like? What happened? Kind of like, let's debrief. Like, I want to debrief and figure out, okay, why is this not working?
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm the same way. Like, because I want to make sure that no stone is unturned. If we need to talk about something, let's talk about it. One of my strongest characteristics is my ability to apologize. Because I don't.
That's a good
Yeah, that is
characteristic.
good.
Yeah, I just don't operate with an ego. It's like It's not costing me anything to apologize genuinely. It's not costing me anything to admit to my wrongdoing. It's okay. Like, I was wrong. I made a mistake. I'm human. But what's next from here? And sometimes whenever you take that approach, you'll realize that people just be like, oh, shit, I was expecting an argument. Or I was expecting for this to stretch out for months and weeks and all that. But it's really not. It's not that deep. It's more so like, what's deep is, are we going to maintain this friendship, or are we going to let a roadblock get in the way? And I think it's healthy to talk about it. I think it's healthy to talk about it just to get it off your chest, and you're not walking around with baggage, or another person walking around with baggage, which is even more important. Whenever and not to go on in a rabbit hole, but that's a lot of times the reason why we're not able to achieve a lot of things that we want to achieve is because my aunt would say that you just got some juju on you in a way, because you're causing all these riffraffs with individuals, and they're all on the same frequency. In the fact that they're in their mind, they're communicating with themselves saying that you are a negative person. Whereas I think it's a great opportunity, even if a friendship doesn't continue, is to even find out what you can do better in the next relationship.
For sure.
Just by having that conversation. So I'm gonna challenge you.
I'm listening.
So the next time it get hot, you know what I'm saying? The next time it get hot, be like, you know what? Woosah.
What could I have done?
I feel
better?
like I just don't like my peace to be interrupted. I'm very much like, I want it to be, this is what it is. And the moment that's
Kumbaya.
Yeah.
Especially
and the moment that's
especially
interrupted,
when you know you're someone who's genuine and operating out of love at all times. So when someone does, again, depending on who the person, if someone does something that goes against those qualities, it's like, it's nothing to talk about. I would have never did you like that. But then you also got some people, again, I don't even know if I can approach you with this conversation and it's going to be meaningful or even beneficial to the relationship, you know? So it just really depends. But
I would say, like, sometimes I'm good for, like, doing relationship checks. Like how can I be a better friend to you? Because then that, you know, gets them to
we
start.
do the same thing in our relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
In our marriages and, you know, boyfriends and fiancés, you know, we're supposed to, you know, kind of get that report card on, like, hey, what am I doing good? What can I improve in? And I think it's healthy for friendships to do that as well, because we get so caught up in life, right?
That's right.
We start to prioritize things and how we move. So right now, like, business may be your chief priority. Business and your family. Like, whether you have a mom healing from sickness or a dad or an uncle, your focus is somewhere. And a lot of times, like, your friendships are just on autopilot. They're just going. And a lot of times we lean too heavily on time. Oh, I've known this person for 15 years. They're good. And it's not always that. Like, I had a conversation with a good friend yesterday about him initiating a relationship with the mother of a girl he used to date. And that relationship with that mother was so significant to him that he felt like he had a piece of him missing by no longer having that relationship. And I told him that, you know, as long as you've continued to heal and you went through that process, and if you really feel like, hey, if something happened to this lady, I will walk around with the rest of my life for that, that's something you got to check. That's something that you have to check. And especially as you have that awareness to do so, I think it's vitally important for us to make sure that we check those boxes and hold ourselves accountable.
Absolutely.
So wonderful conversation, ladies. We talked about vulnerability. We talked about nurturing relationships. We talked about mistakes. We talked about levels of communication, levels of friendships. And I think all in all, the synopsis is that we just have to be mindful in every relationship that we have, and we nurture each relationship separately. It's kind of like having plants. It's like each plant deserves a different type of love. You got to talk to some of them. You got to water them differently. You got to give them some light. You got to put some plants in different places of your house. You love all the plants the same when it comes to love, but it's a certain level of TLC each one of them deserves. And I think as we continue to water friendships, we water ourselves, and we continue to grow. And I think as long as we're making sure that there's equity in relationships, like, there shouldn't be a relationship that I think anybody should be in to where you're giving 100% of something and not receiving that in return.
That's a good point. Equity is definitely. That's the first time I think that was mentioned. But yeah, equity is definitely for sure.
Critical.
Yeah,
I think we talk about that a lot in preparing for this episode. Is like, I want to make sure that I'm bringing something to the table for you all, and it's the same thing in return. So, Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, it was a good conversation.
It was great.
Clap it up.
Good.
What about your friends?
What about your friends?
What about them friends? Good one.
For my brothers never had an ear to hear 'em. These the bricks for our sisters help us build it. If I could be a black fly on the wall, I can hear and see it all and have the mind of a god. Black, 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 black. Fly, 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 fly. Black, black, black.